And when we think about the future of USC football, I feel like there's so many reasons to be optimistic about the direction this program's heading in Lincoln Riley because he's weaponizing recruiting, brother Jay. From a national standpoint, you don't think of USC being able to come into the South, get recruits out of Georgia from Georgia's backyard, getting a guy like a
Right.
Cameron Fountain. And the hell, like some of the decommits you had last year, they flipped one flipped to Georgia. I forgot where the other one flipped. So
He
then
went
you
to
get
Texas. Justice Terry went to Texas.
yeah, and then you a year
Yeah.
before that, you got that interior offensive lineman Jason Zandamela. Now I know he ended up transferring, but the fact that you initially did land him showed that Lincoln Riley, the difference between him and previous USC coaches is that I feel like he's really prioritizing, really making USC not just, being able to be the primary school kids in Cali go to, but also being a national destination. Because Lincoln Riley also saw Alabama this past recruiting cycle walk into their backyard and walk away with 3 of the top 5 players out of the state. That was absolutely disgusting. He
Right.
knows that to win in this new age of college football, you're not going to be able to do it the old school way. Let's just recruit the state of Cali.
Absolutely.
You feel me? You got to have
Absolutely.
players from Texas, Florida, Cali, because that's what all the national champion contenders have. So I like what USC is doing recruiting wise. You currently have the #1 class right now. How do you picture this recruiting cycle playing out for USC in terms of at least being able to maintain a top 5 class?
Well, to your point, we got last year, we got Isaiah Gibson, we've gotten Justice Terry. We had a guy who was on my show. He committed to Miami. His name went blank just now. DB he's out of Florida. Anyway, I'll come back to his name in a minute, but he was on my show. But anyway, we got multiple guys able to secure their commitment. And I think, as you alluded to, there's another piece to this recruiting now. Now, if they weren't good recruiters, they would have never been able to get those guys committed. Those guys committed back in April last year. Justice Terry, all those guys. However, there is another aspect that I don't think we were necessarily ready for. And now that kind of moves me forward to what we have going now. We just got the general manager, Chad Bowden from Notre Dame. And now we start to see all kinds of different things change. Our personnel as a whole, administration wise, is completely overlap. Just incredible, man. So I think right now USC is on a trajectory right now to not only keep these guys, but finish out probably with the #1 class, man, the way things are going. I'm actually I told you I was getting ready to do a live in a little bit, but we're going to talk about some of these guys. We got Oregon commits coming to visit, multiple Oregon commits coming to visit USC this June coming up. And so the momentum right now, it's like second to none. So I think now that we have this current administration in place from a general manager standpoint, I think these guys are going to stick. It was never really a recruiting problem, but it was more so of you have to look, man, we got to put our money where our mouth is, if you will. So I think we're going to be okay. Now, to your other point real quick, you mentioned about maintaining relationships all over the country, recruiting. Absolutely, man. Pete Carroll, man, he had Nelson Aguilar that came from Florida. He had Buck Allen came from Florida. You got Mike Williams, big time receiver. He came from Florida. Dwayne Jarrett, he came from New Jersey. So Brian Cushing came from New Jersey. So we are a national brand, to your point. And yes, we start with California recruits, but we always branch out, get the Cam Fountains, get multiple guys around the country that are from Georgia, because that's who we are. Just like you said, Miami is one of those national brands as well. So you're going to get, I remember they had Ken Dorsey. He was from California way back in the day, as far as being a quarterback. So yeah, I totally agree.
And my last thing I want to ask you is, what are some things that USC has done differently that the previous coaches and the previous administrations haven't been able to do that has contributed to USC now being weaponized with Lincoln Riley?
As of late, we just hired on a bunch of coaches, man, such as Chad Savage. He came from Colorado State, but he's a guy that has relationships that are developed through the local guys, the local high schools. And I think that he's really been able to establish relationships. And I think as a result, we're starting to see some guys that haven't been coming the past couple of years get back on the train, man. And we already see it with their visits. Like a lot of guys from those high schools, I don't want to name them, they weren't even giving USC the time of the day, man. But now, as of late, like I said, we just got this big June batch coming up. USC, I think, to your point, USC is able to reestablish relationships with the inner city guys, and they hiring on people that are able to relate to these guys, young enough to relate to these guys.